This is the TNA Wrestling February 27, 2025 full show results video, which takes place at Full Sail University, Orlando, Florida. The system make their way out to the ring to kick things off, and fans are chanting "Oba's gonna kill you, Oba's gonna kill you" as he settles in the ring. Starting off on the microphone is Alicia Edwards, who as always, hits the crowd with the annoying voice, "Do you wanna know something?" Then JDC takes a turn on the microphone, and then Moose takes over. He talks about how he's gonna take out Oba Femi, and then aims his anger at Jeff Hardy, who he says got lucky against him twice in the past. He says tonight his luck runs out. Brian Myers then gets a turn on the stick and says Oba Femi isn't system material, and then turns his focus to the recent TNA debuts of Eddie and Orlando Colon. He says they might be system material and the theme for the Colons hits, and out they come to the ring. They get on the mic and remind everyone what the Colon name means. It's their way of life, and there's only a few elite wrestlers who fully understands what that means. They say they respect the system, and the system make it clear that everything is better when you trust in the system, and the opening segment wraps up on that note. Backstage, Gia Miller is standing by with her guests at this time, the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions Spitfire. Jody Threat and Danny Luna talk about their unique stipulation for their match against Ash and Heather by Elegance later tonight. They have some fun talking about things they can make them do if they win, and they become their personal concierge, and they joke about giving them makeovers and mohawks. Then we see the system walking and talking backstage when Leon Slater approaches them and confronts them for talking trash. Things start to get heated, and the Hardys show up and keep good on their word of having Slater's back. The two sides bicker and pull and push, but are ultimately kept apart. Then we saw a match between Mike Santana versus NXT's Oro Mensah. Santana rushes towards him in the corner, but runs right into a big boot to the grill. Mensah heads to the ring apron and springboards into the ring with a single leg dropkick that sends Santana flying and crashing to the mat, and Santana rolls out to the floor. We see Mensah tries for a flying crossbody to the floor, but Santana catches him and drops him face first on the hard part of the ring apron, before turning him inside out with a mean clothesline. In the end, Mensah fights back, but ultimately, Santana takes over and blasts the NXT superstar with his spin the block finisher to win the match by pinfall. After the match, a corny-style political smear campaign commercial parody airs. It shows Mustafa Ali and his new crew consisting of the Great Hands and Tasha Steelz trashing Santana, who is shown reacting live still in the ring following his victory over Mensah. When the show returns, an angry Santana storms the backstage area in search of Mustafa Ali and his crew. He runs into the Great Hands and Steelz, and they play dumb. He tells them Santana can do this to his face if he wants to. He almost says he's gonna stick his foot up their ass, but Steelz censors him and cuts him off. The next match happened between Tessa Blanchard versus Kelsey Heather. In a split screen, TNA Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich is shown watching on as Blanchard continues to dominate Heather with ease. She whips her into the corner and charges from the opposing corner, only to halt dead in her tracks at the last second. As Heather cowered, Blanchard blasted her with an open hand slap across the mouth. In the end, Blanchard hits a cutter out of nowhere and then wraps her arms up for the buzzsaw in the center of the ring. 1, 2, 3, Blanchard isn't getting fired, instead she wrestled and won. Backstage, Gia Miller asks Masha Slamovich for her thoughts on Tessa Blanchard's performance moments ago. As she goes to answer, she is ambushed and brutally attacked from behind by Cora Jade. The WWE NXT superstar lays her out, and as she stands over her, she says, "I don't know why you're worried about Tessa Blanchard when I'm the one who was going to take your title at Sacrifice." Backstage, TNA World Champion Joe Hendry and Elijah, guitar and all, are shown talking. Hendry says it was fun last week, but he's seen this one before. He says the second he gets comfortable being friendly with Elijah, his guitar is going to be wrapped around his head. Elijah assures him that is not the case, even though he understands why Hendry would be cautious of it. The system confront them, with Alicia Edwards saying for the second time in the show, as annoying as ever, "Do you want to know something?" They taunt the duo and walk off. The next match happened between Steve Maclin versus KC Navarro. The bell sounds and the two circle each other before locking up. Maclin grabs a side headlock, but Navarro pushes him into the ropes and shucks him off. After bouncing out to the floor at ringside, Maclin is hoisted up and dropped face first into the hard part of the ring apron by Francis, as Navarro distracted the referee inside the ring. Eric Young starts to make his way down to get a closer look at the action. Maclin fights back and runs over Navarro, and he hangs him upside down in the Tree of Woe, backs up and charges at him with a big spear. He follows that up with his Kia finisher for the pinfall victory. He looks up at the entrance area and sees Young and the Northern Armory watching on. Backstage, Tessa Blanchard is shown walking the halls after her first victory on TNA Impact in 5 years, when she notices Lei Ying standing in a doorway and she asks if she's got a staring problem. After things get heated between the two, TNA Director of Authority Santino Marella walks up and tells Blanchard if she doesn't think Lei is on her level, she'll soon be able to prove it, because at TNA Sacrifice it will be Tessa Blanchard versus Lei Ying. The next match happened between Spitfire vs Ash by Elegance and Heather by Elegance for the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Championship. The bell sounds and Ash by Elegance and Jody Threat kick things off for their respective teams. Fans break out in a loud "You look stupid" chant aimed at Ash, which sets her off. After some back-and-forth action, the Elegant duo begins to take over. As they do, the show heads into a mid-match commercial break. When the show returns, the two teams trade the lead a few times until ultimately, Spitfire picks up the victory to retain the titles. Jody Threat gets on the mic after the bout to taunt the Elegant duo for having to now be their personal concierge. After the commercial break, Ash and Heather by Elegance are shown looking a mess and unhappy backstage. As they complain about the stuff from Spitfire they are carrying for them stinking, up comes Spitfire with some more smelly gear for them to haul. Then we saw a match between Mance Warner vs Sami Callihan, and the result of this match was Mance Warner defeated Sami Callihan by disqualification when Sami attacks Mance by a steel chair. Warner grabs the steel chair and begins wearing out Callihan with it as blood trickles from his own eye. Security rushes to the scene to break things up. TNA Director of Authority Santino Marella music hits and the crowd lets out a ridiculously loud roar. Santino gets on the mic and says the fans are going to get what they want, as they will fight in a street fight at the upcoming TNA Sacrifice 2025 pay-per-view. The theme for Wes Lee hits and out he comes accompanied by Tyson DuPont and Tyree Ekigui. Lee takes a seat next to Hanifan and Rewolt and joins them for special guest commentary of the next match of the evening. Then we saw a match between Frankie Kazarian vs Ace Austin. Austin starts peppering Kazarian with an assortment of kicks and he plants him on the mat and leaps high into the air for a jumping leg drop. He plays to the crowd and then runs and launches himself at Kazarian in the corner of the ring and Kazarian ends up on the floor. Austin looks for his trademark spot, but sees Tyson and Tyree right when he would be landing. He walks over and passes through the ropes and brings Kazarian closer to the ring. He hops on the ring apron and blasts Kazarian with a big kick. When he turns around, Kazarian tried to capitalize on the distraction, but Austin outsmarted him. Unfortunately, it wasn't the only distraction, as Lee stood up from the commentary desk and jotted Austin to get his attention, this time resulting in Kazarian catching Austin off guard with his finisher for the pinfall victory. Once the match wraps up, Tyson and Tyree hit the ring along with Lee and begin attacking Austin in 3-on-1 fashion. The Rascals theme hits and Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel sprint down to the ring with steel chairs in their hands to make the save and run off the heel NXT trio. Then we see Ash and Heather by Elegance are shown being tortured with tedious tasks from the TNA Knockouts Tag Team Champions Spitfire. Jody Threat and Danny Luna tells them one has to walk their dog and the other has to carry their bags. The cameras follow them as they awkwardly try and deal with this, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie in the Simple Lifestyle. In the main event of the show, we saw a match between the System vs Oba Femi and the Hardys, and the result of this match was the System defeated Oba Femi and the Hardys by pinfall. After the match, the System beat down the babyfaces along with the Colons until Joe Hendry and Elijah run out to make the save. TNA Director of Authority Santino Marella comes out and announces Moose vs Jeff Hardy in a ladder match for the TNA X Division Championship, as well as the System and the Colons vs Joe Hendry, Matt Hardy, and 3 partners of their choosing for TNA Sacrifice, and that's how this week's show goes off the air. How would you rate this week's TNA show? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching.